The absolute best careers are ones that bring out the best in you, that combine the best of your unique strengths and gifts and talents and your passions. And our amazing guest today, Ileana Nikotakis, is doing exactly that. She has been able to turn personal tragedy into triumph and has been able to alchemize that pain into purpose. As someone who's been a musician, she has been able to blend that love of music with helping people with their brain health after suffering concussions significantly, not just one concussion. So, we're going to hear about her story and how her journey has led her to do soul satisfying work. So, tuning into all the way from Texas, welcome, Ileana.
Thank you for having me today, Dr. Shaunna.
I am so excited for people to hear your story because so many times we feel like we have to choose between what we love to do and our job, so we have this hobby. But when you can blend the best of everything that you do, there's a certain level of resonance of satisfaction, of going through life that is so good. And sometimes when we're going through the hard times, it can be difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But in retrospect, you're like, oh, I get why that happened and that happened. So tell us a little bit about your story, and what you were doing before you became a health coach. Like, were you always interested in health, or what was your life like before? What were you starting with, just to give people a little bit of an idea how this came to be?
Yeah, so I started playing violin when I was 5, and I grew up in a musical household. So music was my life. Like however long I can remember, there was always music. So I was really young when I said, I think before I even played violin, I was like, I will be a musician when I grow up. And so always playing music. And when I was 5, I finally got my first violin after begging for years. My grandma and my dad were like, okay, here's your first violin. So I started taking lessons, started playing. I went later went to college for music and started like I was playing with bands. I've been playing with bands since I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And and yeah, and you know how life happens. I had a few mishaps, accidents, and whatnot. And that led me to being interested in health because I was trying to improve my own health. So that is kind of those mishaps ended up being a bunch of concussions. So yeah, swimming against the wall twice. I was a backstroke swimmer. Swimming is another one of the things I absolutely love. Um, I got into an accident where I broke my jaw. I fell on my chin, broke my jaw. I got into 2 car accidents, and weirdly enough, someone threw a rock at my head at some point. So it was just a bunch of mishaps. I was not a football player. I was not a soccer player, but I just ended up with all these concussions. And even though I loved watching hockey, I was not a hockey player either. So I don't know. My head just had it in for it.
Yeah.
So, but that is what led me to the health.
Yeah, I was stunned. I mean, one concussion is a lot, but multiple is, and to not be, I was like, were you a football player? Like, what was going on there? And so interesting. So, okay, let me rewind a little bit before, because there's two aspects of this. So there's the brain health and the concussion. So we already start to see why you were very interested all of a sudden in brain health because of your own. Although at that point, you are struggling with your own brain health. So to learn things new and to learn how to handle these things, you kind of got one strike against you versus maybe if you were just learning about gut health or something like that, you at least have your brain to learn. So we're going to come back and circle back around to that. But I wanted to dive in a little bit to this love of music and particularly violin. Lots of people play piano or guitar or maybe drums. Violin is not something that we hear more, as often. And even at the age of 5, like there's not too many 5-year-olds who are begging their parents for a violin. There might be some parents who are pushing their kids into playing violin, but that is something that I didn't know. So why violin and why at 5? Like, were your parents musicians? Were your parents in bands? Did everybody every Sunday night play? What was the inspiration there?
So my dad is a guitarist. And my sister started playing piano when she was younger, like she's older than me. So she started playing piano when I was really little. And my dad, like he everything was always music. Like when he was watching TV, he was playing guitar while watching TV. Like we like his record collection and yes, CD collection. We used to have CD collections. Now we're back to records, or vinyl. Um, is like huge. He would go to the record store every day and like almost every day and bring something new home that he was interested in. So that music was everything around me and everything that I wanted to have around me. So, but honestly, nobody knows why I started saying I wanted to play violin when I was like, I think I was 2 or 3 when I started saying I want to play violin.
So that's interesting. I understand people like growing up with music and liking music. And if you said piano, guitar, but the violin and at such a young age, for me, that's really interesting. So it really feels like it was meant to be. And it also feels like, one concussion, okay. But, multiple it really feels like, almost, divinely led to combine these two things together because it was like, okay, and I think you had shared something with me once that you were told, by someone who was observing you and all of these. How many concussions were there? Like six or so, or yeah.
Six.
Yeah, share with the audience what you had, and then now that I have this violin piece, I'm like even more so feeling like you are doing the soul satisfying work now that you know that you came here to do, and there's a certain level of satisfaction there that's really great. But tell people what that person had said to you.
Yeah, so at some point I had someone say to me that, oh, if you have that was after the last concussion. Someone said to me, oh, if you have one concussion, that's okay. If you start having several, that's where you start to have a problem. And I did not realize at the moment that that was number 6 because I was out of it. After the last concussion, I was all over the place. I did not remember songs I was playing regularly. I did not remember harmony parts I was singing. I did not remember so many things. I did not remember when after the last accident, like it was a car accident, the sixth concussion was a car accident. I drove to get my car evaluated, which barely had any damage, of course. The damage was all up here, from hitting my head.
Yeah.
Um, and I drove to get the car evaluated, and I remembered for years driving out of the Starbucks parking lot, but I do not remember driving to the Starbucks. So that first part of the drive was just blank. I could not remember going to Starbucks. I just remembered
Wow.
getting my coffee, going to get my car evaluated. After that, it was back, but I had these like memory lapses, and
Yeah.
that was scary because I was like, what is this? Do I have seizures? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And I now remember driving to the Starbucks. It came back eventually. But yeah, it was just like this one concussion, we can handle that. But if we have several, that will mess with us. And then eventually I was like, that was 6 concussions.
Yeah. And that was and it was like I think someone had said something, it was like a divine bump on the head or like
Yes, yes. My one of my friends and coaches, she said to me, she was like, it's almost when we have a concussion, it's almost like a reset. It's like we're on a path, and then when we have a concussion, it's like a reset to put us on the path that we should be on, or that might serve us better, or where we might serve the world better. I'm trying to see that in it, how each concussion changed the course of my life.
I was listening to a podcast and they were talking to somebody who had had a near death experience, only they'd had like three. And I'm like, one is like, whoa, but three? And you're like, I think they're making this up, right? I mean, like, they can't be like, I don't know if I believe this. But then you're like, okay, like, it's like the wake up calls. And I look at my own medical career, and honestly, I was a doctor for 25 years. I should have quit 15 years before. And what I've come to learn is you can't quit on your calling. And first you get a little tap, and then you get a little nudge. Like if you're off track a little bit, this was supposed to be the music is a stepping stone, but it's not the whole thing. It's an important piece, it's a critical piece, but there's more to it. And for me, being a doctor and getting that knowledge of the human body and the suffering that people go through was a piece of it, but it wasn't the whole piece. And so it just kept getting louder and louder and more painful and more debilitating. And I'm like, when it's your calling, it's like, come along quietly and nobody gets hurt. Like I really feel like, so it's like that, you're close, but we got to nudge you over things. And those first ones were not enough to say, hey, to knock you off of, I'm going to be a musician only, and this is my life's path. That was what you had set out. And it wasn't wrong. It wasn't just the whole piece. And so for anybody who's listening in, if you feel like are on a career path and you are a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, and you're going along, you're humming along, and then something happens, you get laid off or you move and you can't do the work you used to do. We have so many people who are a doctor in one country and then they move to another country and they can't do what they used to do. And so like there's a door closed. It's not like everything that went before. It's not like the music career that you had has gone is a waste. No, essential to the next phase. It's just not the end of the story. We're still in that. And so I really love that. And then I think the whole violin thing stands out. Like it really, it stands out. And you teach violin and you play the fiddle in a band. Plug your
Mhm.
band. What's the name of the band?
The band I play with is called the Sour Bridges.
Awesome, awesome. So,
Yes.
getting to do work that you love. I remember when we were working together, setting up your practice and refining and carving out that niche that was your unique blend of what you do. I remember we had a little celebration of a milestone, and you tuned in from the van while the guys were in having their lunch.
Yes. And I was like, guys, I'm gonna stay on the phone. You guys go eat.
So it's so great to be able to do work that you love with who you love, how you love, and where you love. And so but as you're going through the journey, as we're carving this out, it can be painful to go through these. And the thing is, you're kind of forced to stop because you want to be a musician, but if you can't remember the lines, if you can't remember the notes, if you can't remember how to get to the venue, then we're not going to be able to do that. So now that wasn't the only injury that you had. Oh no, we had more. So tell me like what was like kind of like the last straw of like, okay, I can't be a musician anymore.
Yeah, so I mean, I went through all the things I had in high school, ended up with tendonitis in my hand and whatnot. So I went through all of that early on. I somehow figured it out with physical therapy and whatnot. But then I injured my shoulder, like working out. I slipped working out, and two other injuries, like one from the car accident and another one that came on top of that. And I had to stop playing violin for a while. And I was like, I'm gonna sit down, let this heal, rest, and it's gonna get better because MRI didn't really show anything,
Yeah.
but it didn't get better. Every time I picked up the fiddle, it was bad again. And so eventually I was like, well, I think I need to make a few changes to my life and need to put the violin down or only play it for the things that I really love.
Yeah.
So I made the choice violin only goes onto the shoulder if I play what I really love to play.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there was still not a lot of time I could spend playing. So I was like, there need to be a few changes made.
Yeah. And so is that why you became a health coach? Fill in the blanks between having the shoulder injury, and I think you had some allergies and things as well. And so you're here with the shoulder injury and the head injury, and then as a musician, unable to play music, and then you became a health coach. Help us fill in the gaps. How did that become that? Why did you become a health coach, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I started having gut issues. I mean, I always had, I had these concussions before, like in sixth grade, I broke my jaw on a little scooter and
You're
had
kind of
like
accident prone, I'm thinking, Ilya. Just a
yeah, I know. The year
tad.
after we were rear-ended and I hit my like I my back shifted in a car accident. It was just like all these things that happened.
I think it
But
was meant to be. It was meant to be. But now you're good. Now
I
you're
hope
where you're
so. I
supposed to
hope
be.
so.
No
I
more
hope never.
need to nudge you on the track. You're all good. Okay, carry on.
Oh yes. Yeah, so it started with like all these little injuries, and then head injuries can lead to gut issues, and that was exactly what happened for me. So I started having food allergies and sensitivities, and I didn't know. So went from doctor to doctor, and nothing really came about. And so my mom kept nudging me to do to do a whole food diet. She was like, "There's this book here, and I've done this, and it has really helped me. You should really do this." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, mom, I'll figure it out." Right? Because that's how we are when
Yeah,
we're teenagers. But then I eventually listened to my mom and I did the diet a month super strict. Like for a month, I went by the T. Like I did everything perfectly. And I was like, oh my God. Like after a week, I was like, I'm feeling different. After 2 weeks, I was like, oh, whoa, wait. My stomach's not burning. I don't have heartburn right now. This feels amazing because I accidentally cut out all the things that I was allergic to. And I just started feeling better and I started telling everyone, try this like you need to live healthy, you need to do this and that.
yeah,
And that was right around the time I really got into working out again. So I was going to the gym several times a week, like lifting weights. And I felt as well as I hadn't in years. I was full of energy. I was like my health was better. I was playing violin for hours every single day and everything was good. I moved, so I grew up in Germany and in Cologne, Germany, and then I moved to the US and started going to college. And I was super happy. It was awesome. I ended up moving to Austin, which is a music city, live music city. I went to college for majored in music, and then I had that car accident with concussion number 6, and then everything got turned upside down,
yeah,
all the way upside down.
yeah,
But that is what led me to it. The gut issues in the beginning and feeling how eating healthy, cutting out sugar, alcohol. I wasn't really drinking at the time anyways, but sugar, alcohol, and white flour were the three, and chemicals, like any food additives. Those were the four main things that I cut out. And that changed everything. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm a different person. And
yeah,
I wanted to tell everyone.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
on my path with the music. Then I hit my head again, had the shoulder injury, and I was like, what am I going to do now? And I'd start looking into nutrition as dietitian, and then I found health coaching and IIN, and I was like, this is it. I'm doing this.
yeah. I love it. I had, it was a late night desperate web search for me too, looking at, that led me to IIN, really saved my life. Sounds like it saved yours too. Really helpful
Mhm.
to, a great program to become a health coach. Really great at like, I didn't even know that that was an option, and a lot of people don't. And for me, then taking that and then customizing it and making it your own. There's so many possibilities that you can go in directions you can go to with the training at IAN. It's fantastic. And then sort of customizing it. And I love how we've been able to like carve it down even further, not just to be a health coach, not even just to be a brain health coach, but you know, helping people with brain health with music and nutrition because you had your own gut health. You said something I may have misheard you, and if it's a truth then help us understand. So I totally get how your gut health can impact your brain health. That makes
Mhm.
total sense to me and probably all of our listeners. I thought I heard and we can edit it out if I misheard, that your brain health impacted your gut health, that your brain
Yes.
injury impacted your gut health. That part I didn't know. I don't know what you mean by that. And so, did I hear you correctly?
Yes. So there's a direct connection between the brain and the gut. There's the brain gut axis. And so what essentially from what I've learned, like I started reading about brain and brain health. So our brain tissue is made from like as we grow, like as the embryo grows, our brain tissue is the same. Our brain and our gut are made from the same tissue, the same cells as the embryo grows. And there's a direct connection with all the nerves and everything. That is where, when you get anxious and you start overthinking and you feel that in your gut, that can be that connection. So our gut health is often directly connected with our brain health, and it can impact each other. That is not the case for everyone, of course, because we're all individuals and our bodies all function differently. We all have a different history and a different upbringing, different life. We have different pieces that go together. But gut health and brain health are directly connected, and that is where the the nutrition piece, that like me changing my diet at that time, was so impactful because it had a direct effect on having more clarity, feeling better, having more clear thoughts. Like my eyes became clear, I was able to see better. It was just crazy, all the little things that started getting better that I didn't even realize were a problem.
Yeah, so I get that when people are anxious or stressed or their mood and those sorts of things in terms of mental health, emotional health, and
Mhm.
your gut, like like that is like another brain, right? I get that
Mhm.
part where that impacts your gut health, but the thing that might be news to me
Mhm.
is if you have a concussion, a brain injury, is that negatively impact? Like, I understand if you go to the hospital, they put you on antibiotics, we're impacting our gut health. Got it. But does a concussion impact gut health? Like, by having a concussion in serial concussions, can that impair gut health?
It can, yes. That
Wow.
is, it's kind of crazy to think about that because for so many decades we thought that our brain was separate from the rest of the body, right? So we always thought this is our brain and this is our body. But recent research shows more how connected all of that is. So when we look at the more recent research and those connections, we have learned now that there are actually things that can cross the blood-brain barrier. So there are nutrients, there are situations, there are things that can get through that barrier. And for the longest time, we thought that our brain was just encapsulated in the separate part of our body, and didn't really, once our brain is set, our brain is
Yeah.
set. But that is not what we know now. Like now, recent research has changed that. And we now know that there are so many factors that can impact our brain health and have an influence on it. Same if negative things happen, it can have an influence as well. So a lot of people who have brain injuries end up with leaky gut or like food sensitivities. It's a
Wow.
common chain reaction that happens. Like I said, not to everyone, of course, but
But it can.
it is common. Yeah.
Which came first for you, the first concussion or the first allergy? Do you
That
know?
is super hard to say
Hard
because
to
I
say.
was
Yeah.
given antibiotics prophylactically way too young. So that
Yes.
is where my gut issues, like
Yeah.
I was lucky enough for my mom to know about gut health, and she had like made sure that my gut microbiome was improved after the
Wow.
antibiotic session right away. But I always had ear infections as a kid. So I was given antibiotics again and then eventually worked with an alternate practitioner to get that under control. So my mom had me work with someone when I was really young, luckily.
Yeah.
But that definitely impacted my health and my life. So yeah.
Fantastic. So this is, it's fascinating, and your mom was ahead of her time, and and obviously we have a whole body, and obviously everything connects with everything. But I don't think a lot of people, when they think of somebody getting a traumatic brain injury, that they're immediately thinking, oh, that's going to impact my gut health. I think, and comment below, people, and maybe everybody else knew this, but I definitely the other way, antibiotics or other things, or emotions or those sorts of things. Yes, and so a lot of things are happening to people that are impacting their gut health that they might not know about, and then it's reciprocal, like both ways. So really great information there, Ileana, and so a lot of times people are having these challenges and they don't know why, and sometimes they can have had a concussion maybe years ago, and I know people that we've encountered who've had, they went to a dental procedure, had prophylactic antibiotics, didn't think anything of it. And then they're struggling with things. But that was so, who thinks about a dentist appointment they had 5 years ago? You don't really recall it. And then trace it back to when did my troubles start, so yeah, really great information for people, and all the more reason to have health coaches. So who do you help now, and like what are you passionate about helping, who are you helping now, with your practice?
Yeah, so most of my clients are professional women in their mid 30s and like who can't think clearly, who are exhausted and have no idea how to get these things under control. They just want to think clearly and feel like themselves again. So yeah, so I work with that is mostly who I work with.
Yeah, I know you have a broad range. I know you help with men, and I know you help
Hmm.
children, and I know you teach children violin. And so sometimes, as you're teaching them violin, the parents are there, and the next thing you know, the parent is a client, or vice versa. And so yeah, but it's passionate about helping people improve their brain health and their mental clarity. I know that's and by using music. What do you like best about being a health coach? What's your best part about doing this career?
I love helping people. I just so what happened was I was still at IIN and I was not really clear on wanting to go into brain health yet. So I was thinking I had already gone through Dr. Shaunna's segment in
Yeah,
IIN, which was all about find your niche, go into the detail. Like I had seen your segment there and I was already thinking in that direction. And my coach at IIN also we talked about those things and I was like, brain health or allergies. Those were my two main
yeah,
thoughts that I had. And then while I was still at IIN, one of my students, my adult students, violent students, started telling me how her wife had like had an accident and the doctors weren't able to help her and things were just really like weird and the symptoms. And I was like, honestly, she had that accident. Is it possible she had a concussion? Because everything you're telling me, like 80% of the things you're saying are the things that I had after my last concussion.
yeah,
So, and then a few weeks later, she came, oh my God, we went to the doctor and now like she went to a neurologist and everything is different. And so I was still in school. So I told her, like, I helped her. I told her what to, like, what she could try, what had helped me. And that was pretty much the turning point. I had a moment later where I was like, do I really do, like, is it really brain health?
yeah,
And then my student was like, yes, you need to do this. You need to help people. You need to go into brain health. You helped my wife and you absolutely need to continue this.
yeah,
And that was kind of where that whole brain health got anchored in because I was able to help that one person and that feeling of like feeling I have gone through this and now
yeah,
I get to help people who are in the middle of this.
yeah,
And it was just that feeling of passing it on and not just having it done for myself, but for a wider range of people. That
yeah.
just felt very, very good.
Right. And the thing that I love is that also it's not just I'm now a brain health coach. It's not just that either. And it's much more nuanced and beautiful and organic in what you do. And so that's why I teach a purpose-driven expert niche, like having those things that you love to do, music that lights you up, and then those things that you're really good at. And, a lot of times none of us wants to be an expert in what we're an expert in usually. So brain health and figuring out how to overcome post concussions, 6 concussions, you get the gold star for that. You're a leader in that. So that the sweet spot. And so not just one, not just the other, but those things that you love to do that light you up and those things that you're really good at, the intersection, the sweet spot is what I call purpose driven expert niche. And that's where you just like, you love what you do, you're great at what you do, and then that allows you to deliver excellent results. And so that blending of that, it takes a little bit to carve out, but you don't have to cut off a part of you. Like you don't have to say, okay, I'm no longer going to do music. I'm no longer going to like music because you can't turn that tap off. So you still get to do what you love to do and design it exactly with the right ingredients and the measure that you want to have. And so I love being able to have that for people. And if you are somebody, if you're a health coach who is, wondering, how do I blend my passions? What's my purpose driven expert niche? There's a link below in the descriptions that you'll see there for a strategy session. Let's hop on a call and let's have a chat and see what you are uniquely qualified for. What is something that you've learned, Ileana, from working with your clients? I know we teach them a lot, we give a lot, but we get a lot in return and we learn things. What are some things that you've learned in working with your clients?
So for me, it might be that my like the food that makes me feel the best is when I eat a very Greek diet. I am
Yes,
my dad's
yes,
Greek, so I am like that is my body just feels very happy when I do that. But then for somebody else, it might have to be a little bit of a different combination. They might thrive better on eating avocado and I don't know, like chicken, but and rice or something. Like it depends on all of us are just so unique. And then for some, it's the little brain exercises that really are the aha and bing moment. Whereas for me, it was um, changing my diet and having more fats in it. So everybody has their little thing that works for them because we're
yeah.
so individual. And that is beautiful to help people get closer to that, to help them figure that out. And yeah, I really like that. And I always say there, like, for me, there are three pillars of this. That is nutrition, number two is the brain exercises, and then number three is the music. So those are my three pillars of what really can catapult us forward.
Yeah. I love so that, compared to another person who might be a brain health coach who might also have gone through concussions, your approach is unique and different. Just like everyone's different, just like your clients, just like my clients, right? Everyone is
Hmm.
unique. And it's really like um, Joshua coined the term bio-individual, right? And so really
Hmm.
customizing that approach to them and even the way each health coach operates, it's not cookie cutter. Like there's things that you have some genius that you can then unleash those gifts, and that's what makes it. Where's my book here? That makes it soul satisfying, like soul satisfying. I'll put a link to this book, Free to Heal, in the comments below. If that's what we're after, because it's not just a job. I mean, we can get a job anywhere, but this is like fulfilling your calling, the thing that you're meant to do. So I
Yeah.
love that. And in what way, like, so music is different. So I've had other brain health coaches, but they might not have been musicians. And so how do you incorporate music into your clients' lives to help them improve their brain health? And what role does music play?
Yeah, so music has different we can have different approaches to music, right? We can be totally passionate about listening to music. We can be a person that goes just hears music in the car, on the radio, and in the grocery store, and when they're in a bar. And there are people who love listening to music, playing music, experiencing music as like including that playing the music. So all those are different ways of handling it. What I number one is music can help you like it can help your brain health because our brain gets really active when we listen to music.
Yeah,
So, and the beautiful thing is one of my most favorite things is it doesn't need to be any specific music. So it can be jazz, it can be classical music, it can be metal, whatever makes you feel good. And that is where that bio individuality, that how we all are different comes in. And it can also change with your mood. Like today, I might prefer listening to something a little bit calmer, just because of the way the day is flowing. But then tomorrow, I might prefer to listen to metal music. Like
yeah,
it really changes with the situation and what feels good for me in the moment.
yes,
And then when we play music, that is when the fireworks happen in the brain. So
yeah,
listening to music, we can see on scans that it activates the brain. But when we
yes,
play the music, that is when all the fireworks are happening.
yeah.
So that is what I love about the teaching violin and bringing the brain health and the coaching in there. So my students, they have to figure out what works for them. Like I will not be like, play that again. you need to fix this. I mean, of course, that comes in there
Yeah.
somewhere as well. But a
Yes.
lot of times I'm like, all right, what did you do well? And what can you do better?
Yeah.
Figure it out. And
Y-
then I talk them through it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
We know music affects our mood in movies, right? That's why they play the music that goes along in the background of someone going down a dark alley. Like, by the music, this is not going to be good, or it's
Mhm.
suspenseful, or, something joyful, or, someone walking down the same street, but there's, romantic music. It might be same dim lit street, but it's romantic music and someone's on a stroll. And so it affects us. And it's also, we remember things. We hear a music jingle. When I was in medical school, I remember there were two of my medical colleagues that one played the guitar, and then the two of them together took a bunch of the study notes and they made songs about them. So she had her guitar and they made songs to it, and it just made it so much easier to remember like the answers of what we were studying, because we remember song lyrics, whereas memorizing text is so
Mhm.
hard. So that obviously that affected our like non-concussed brains to improve our memory. So it totally makes sense that this can be used to affect our mood and our brain health, and our just overall feeling
Yes.
better. So yeah, it's awesome.
The way our brain processes music is very interesting because there are so many different ways for our brain to remember music. But let's say I played a song that was always on when you were in high school.
Yes.
You will remember that time in high school and you will be put right back to it. Whereas so music can bring us back. A lot of time we like the nostalgia of music. That is why people enjoy so much hearing covers because
Mm,
they already know them. It brings them back to something. It's something they like.
yeah.
Sometimes it's hard for people to hear new music because they're not used to it. And
Mhm.
that is why we also like the chorus in the song because our brain's like, I've already heard this. I know this. Our
Yes.
brains like things they already know because it makes them feel safe. And that is what music can do. It can make us feel safe.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's so true. What, as somebody who is a brain health coach, but a musician and who has overcome, many concussions yourself, what would you say is the biggest myth that people have when it comes to their brain health?
One of the biggest myths is that we believe, like we used to believe for the longest time, that around 25, our brain is done. Like we're like we say when we're 25, our brain is fully developed, and that is where we pretty much thought was kind of a cutoff. But we know now with like newer research that we can learn forever. Our brain is capable of something called neuroplasticity, and
Mhm.
that means that our brain can build new connections pretty much until any age. Like my grandmother, who would have turned 100 years old today,
Wow.
um, she uh, she was learning new things until the very end. I would like go visit her when she was in her 90s, and she was doing crossword puzzles. She I think she actually started learning a new language. So she just kept learning because yes, in your 90s you can still learn new things. Our brain is so malleable and so loves new things and new connections. So yeah, always keep learning because you can.
And it keeps you young and healthy. And, my 86-year-old mother just put something on Facebook Marketplace to sell, just a funny example. But at the first try, it didn't work, right? And then she ended up posting publicly to people like face Marketplace or something. And they're like, are, are you being scammed? Are you trying to do? And somebody says, stay away from the computers. We should stay away from the computers. That's, we're too old for that. Anyways, what she didn't update them on was the fact that she did figure it out. She took the pictures, she got them from her phone, she put it on computer, and she was already getting calls on what she was putting on. So at 86, so it's not like you can learn new things. And
Yes.
and it's really helpful. And she is youthful and she is healthy. And it's really important because when we stagnant energy is not good. You think of swamps and cesspools and abscesses and strokes,
Mm-mm.
like sluggish. When things get not moving, that not good things happen. So we
Yes.
we want to kind of keep vibrant and alive, and like learning new things is definitely a part of that. How have you grown, Ileana, as a health coach, as a person, as a person through the process of becoming a health coach and health coaching? What has improved in your life?
I must say, I learned so much about health and life. I mean, I was always interested in it, but then when I went through the health coaching program, I got so many different perspectives and so many different aspects of life and health. And I got to know myself in a completely different way. I
Yeah,
was already on the path of like I had hit rock bottom when I couldn't play violin anymore. So I was kind of digging myself out of the hole and trying to figure out who am I without the violin. So and through that process, I just yeah got to know myself in a completely new way. And it started for me, it made me see my community in a different way. It made me have more patience with people
yeah,
because you never know what's happening for them. You never know what they're going through. And it also resulted in me having more compassion for myself because through the concussion, I was not able, for years, I wasn't able to function how I used to.
yeah,
And I mean, I used to be the person practicing violin for 8 hours a day. And suddenly I was sitting there looking at the wall, not being able to grasp a thought because I was so low energy and at such a like down point. And one thing that is really big for me, I learned to emphasize the positive more. So always like emphasize what's going well. And that's something I enjoy bringing my health coaching clients and my violin students to is that walk out with something that you did well and tell yourself that you did that well. Like
yeah,
see something that you did well. Don't only see the things that you didn't do well. You
yeah,
need to see your improvements to allow yourself to reach your goals.
yeah,
Because if you only see the end goal, you're destroying yourself. You're always putting yourself down. Instead, see which steps you've already taken. Think about where you were a month ago and where you're now.
yeah,
And I always want people to see that little positive thing, that little thing that they did better.
yeah.
That is, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I think when I was a health coach and I had my practice and I was working with people, like when I was in your shoes, the one thing that stood out for me was that everybody has a story. And like they were walking around in my community before, and I had no idea of all of the things they'd gone through, but they really opened up to me as a health coach now. And that is, I believe, what allowed me to have all of my clients get off all of their medications. I didn't take them off, their doctors did, but through the work that we did. And it was really about letting them, share their story. And it does have you be more compassionate because if you just see that person acting that way, you don't know what was behind it. And so I think you're right. It helps us be more kind, more compassionate, more understanding, have a better perspective on life, and then hopefully be easier on our own selves because, that because we can be a little bit tough. If you had to go back and talk to your younger self, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Well, you pretty much already went in that direction right now. I would say give yourself more grace. Or like to myself, I would say give yourself more grace because what
Yeah,
I've experienced and what I figured out is being hard on yourself leads to burnout.
yeah.
Um, you're always chasing the next thing. You can't enjoy, like without grace for yourself, you can't enjoy the achievement that you already have.
Yeah, you're so right. As you're going about and helping people, and maybe most of them, I know not all, but most of them might come to you with some kind of wanting to improve their mental clarity, their brain health, post concussion, so on. And when you help people with that one thing, that because we are a holistic being, then and when you get to the root cause of what's going on, all sorts of great things happen as a result of it. It's not just their brain health that improved. There's other things. I love to hear examples or stories of, a couple of people, maybe that clients that you've had where you were helping them with one thing, but then this other thing that you hadn't even been trying to help also got better. I really love it. Just says like how important the work is that we're doing. But any examples that you have like that to share?
Yeah, so that one of my students that I mentioned earlier, where her wife had a concussion and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And she told me later, she was like, "You pretty much saved my marriage because like with that concussion, she became a different person, and we didn't know what was going on, and it like drove them apart. But then once they knew what was happening, they found their way back together.
Yeah.
And so she pretty much told me that, no, like figuring that out and getting help saved their marriage.
Well, and that makes sense. Like when you were talking before about driving with your car and not remembering how you got there, like you can, it's not a big leap to see how that would impact a relationship. Like, because you wouldn't even know that you were supposed to know and you forgot something, or, and like it's not your fault, but like you don't have maybe a broken arm or a blood dripping out of you. Like nobody can see that you have an issue. You can't see it.
Yes.
It's invisible. And so they're not getting that understanding. So then there's this gap. Or especially if speech is involved, or, but yeah, like if you can't remember certain things, if you can't
Mhm.
remember the music, like maybe you also can't remember people's anniversary or their birthday or to pick up the kids or all sorts of other
Yeah.
things that you're supposed to
Names.
remember, and names.
Names were one of my biggest things when I had the concussion. Names in here, out here, just straight through. Wait, your name was Amanda? In here, out here. Like I just couldn't, it didn't stick. Like it was really just gone. That was one of the things that was
And
gone. And yes, what you just said with the driving, like that lady I was just talking about, she would be driving and then suddenly for no reason just turn left on a street and just being like not knowing where they were actually going, forgot that they were going to the store or something, just take
yeah,
a random left turn suddenly.
yeah,
And yeah, because it's like there are interruptions. You suddenly don't know where it goes anymore.
yeah.
And yeah,
And people might interpret not being able to remember a name as you not caring to bother to
yes.
remember their name. And
And
that's
that,
not it, and that's where the
yes.
relationship issues can really falter. So like huge, like think of the divorce costs that you saved them. Your program was a
Yes.
bargain. Your program was a
And
bargain.
also the like sadness in life. I mean,
Yeah, the
having married
comments.
someone and then walking away from them,
Yeah,
that's not an
heartache.
easy feat. Yeah, that
Right.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's like, yeah, and I mean that was one of the things, but then also another lady I worked with, she said that her confidence improved. She she had health issues and had a hard time, like she had a hard time with her gut health. And that can really down your confidence. I mean, having to go to places and always be like, yeah, I can't eat that, or I'm not hungry right now, I can't eat right now.
Yeah.
Just like changing your gut health and changing the way that you see yourself in that and giving yourself compassion in that can really make you more confident in general. Like it can help you feel like I can be this person and I am who I am.
Yeah.
And then as things improve, it's just those little steps going upward that you get out of that. So that is another beautiful story that I always like to remember.
Yeah, imagine your world opens up. Like if you're confident, then maybe you'll travel, or like, but if you're not confident, you have a few trips like that where you're driving, you don't drive anymore. Like you stay inside and you
Mhm.
you start talking to people less because you're like, I can't trust myself, or and so yeah, that's huge
Mhm.
to be able to like confidently go, their work will be better, their careers are better, like they can do their job and they can trust themselves,
Yeah.
so important. Yeah, anything else that you
Yeah.
wanted to share?
Yeah. I mean, another one is sleep improvement. Another lady I worked with, that was while I was still at IIN, and her sleep improved drastically because she suddenly, we tweaked her like everything around sleep. We tweaked her bedtime routine and everything. And suddenly she was like, oh, I'm just going to sleep now. Like
Right. Yeah.
suddenly her body got the message.
Yeah.
And like that is also again connected to nutrition. I mean, if you drink your coffee until 6 p.m., the probability that you have good sleep just drastically goes down.
Yeah.
And I mean, it always depends on the way your brain works, but most people, late caffeine will impact it. And just tweaking those little things and then adding more in lifestyle changes can do so much for sleep, like it did for that lady.
Yeah, like, and they can come to you for one thing, like gut health or brain health. And then, like, sometimes people come for sleep, and, that makes sense. But so many times there's these positive side effects of working with health coaches that I love. And I really like to anchor and echo that out into the world. Like, I just think health coaching is the best career ever, because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Like, as you help people, like their lives just get better exponentially. It's not just, oh, my memory got better by 2 points or something. No, like it's like everything gets better: relationships, sleep, health, confidence, career, finances. Like everything gets better when you get to root cause and you help improve. And it's like, I just love health coaches. They're these unsung heroes out there, doing their work that they're uniquely well qualified for. I know health coaches sometimes get a bad rap because so many people call themselves health coaches. But when I talk about like health coaches and what we're doing, it's not just, somebody who's, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm peddling a product, for example, like that's fine. But what I'm talking about is this coaching that you do. Like, it is truly life changing. It's really powerful, and I just want to thank you for all the work that you do. How can people connect with you, Ileana, if they have questions? If you have questions, you can always put them in the comments below. We'll make sure that Ileana sees that. But apart from that, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, they can, for example, go to my website, or let's say, put it that way. There are two ways to connect right now. You can go to my website, and which is, we'll put the link in the notes, I think, right? So you can go to my website, book a call on there. There's a little starter kit that you can check out. So that is one way to connect. And then the other way to connect is you can go to my Instagram, which is my name, Ileana Nikitakis, and you can connect to me on there.
Okay, so spell your name for Instagram.
Yes, it's Ilean as in Nancy A, and then my last name is N as in Nancy, Ikitakis.
The website that they can reach you at is ileananhw.com. Nutrition, Health, Wellness is what that stands for. ILEANA. nhw.com. So check it out. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. If they have questions, they can do that. You're a great shining example of someone who's blending their passions. If you are a health coach and you're looking at like, how can I do that? Of course, there's the links below, but I will direct you to this next video on how to carve out your purpose-driven expert niche. And with that, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you in the next episode. Be good for you.